what's going on, guys? It's Supreme Snakes here, and today we're going to be going over the basics of owning a ball python, and I will be touching on the breeding aspect of things. But we're going to be going over temperatures, humidity, feeding, and things I wish I knew, the pros and cons of breeding ball python, pros and cons of owning a ball python, things like that, just so you know what you're getting into. So let's say you got your first ball python. You got a snake from me like this pie, right? So we're gonna start off with heating. There are different types of heating. You need to have a hot side and a cool side to your ball python, which is technically a warm side, not really a cool side, but hey. So for the hot side, you are gonna want your ball python to be around 92 degrees. And then for the cool side, you're gonna want it to be about 82 degrees. I know people who have higher temperatures or lower temperatures. It's just gonna depend on your ball python specifically, your enclosure setup, your room setup, so many different things. It's just a good baseline that I like to tell people to kind of shift and lean as a foundation, and then you can change according to what works for you. So we can start off with the main thing you see at pet stores is a heating bulb. Pros, it's cheap. Cons, everything about it. Don't use a heat lamp on a ball python. I strongly urge people, please don't do it. They don't like light. They don't like bright lights being on. I just had them on for this video and they have been fed yesterday, so they are fine with these lights. They don't like it. They're just gonna act different and they could put them off feeding. I've seen that plenty of times. That's why I do tell people, if you can, get in a opaque enclosure, which means a non-see-through one. So what can you use for a heating element for the hot side? So for the hot side, you can also use a heating pad, heating tape, and heating wire. These are all about the same. If you have one enclosure, let's say you want a PVC setup or you want one of these tubs that I have here, you can do that. Heating wire and heating tape, I think, are the most widely used. Heating tape is by far the most widely used. Then it'd be heating tape. And then for single ball python users, I think I've seen heating pad used at least temporarily. So what's the pros of a heating pad? Easy to set up. Cons are, doesn't last forever. And it's just not good if you're gonna have more than a few ball pythons. If you're gonna have more than one ball python, the heating might not be as effective, and it's not energy effective either. Let's move on to heating tape. Pros, you can get it from Reptile Basics or you can get it from Pangea. I think there are other markets out there that sell them. But heating tape, you can get it in 4-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch. And the rule of thumb for this is you want a third of the enclosure size. So if you have one of these, you probably want a 4-inch. If you have these 28 ones, you're gonna want probably like a 12-inch, a 10-inch. That would work perfectly fine for their hot side. You want a third of it to be that temperature. So also a pro of it is it's not that expensive. It can be expensive depending how many feet you need of it. I believe it's like $5 a foot with shipping, and Pangea and Reptile Basics can set it up for you to wire it yourself, or if you are a wiring aficionado, that I am not, you can do it yourself. If you do it yourself, you can do more fancy stuff with it. You can have it all go into one plug, or you can have it go to multiple plugs. It's just on what works for you. Heating tape is very versatile. You can do a lot with it. Same thing with heating wire. The pros of heating wire is, I believe it is cheaper than heating tape. All the pros of heat tape. The main con that I have with heating wire, again, I don't really use heating wire, so if you guys want to leave a comment below to let me know if I'm wrong on this, but heating wire, if you don't set it up correctly, you can have heat spikes and you can have heat spots and cool spots. So if you don't have it wired, because remember, it is a single wire that you're going to just wire on the back of the enclosure, then you're just going to have to set it up correctly so that you get an even distribution of heat through the back of the snake wrap. You can have heat tape on the back And then you're gonna know it's uniform because it's just one piece of heating element. And it just differs on the size that you have. If you have too small of it, you're just gonna direct heat into such a small spot that it's not gonna disperse at all. So you won't even see much of a heating effect to the heat tip if you go too small. So again, you can do back heating or underbelly heating. I do underbelly heating. Underbelly heating for me just works. You might use more heat tape, but to me, it's just more effective of a heating for me, since I do have quite a bit of ball pythons. So next one we're gonna go over is the best of the best for, I would say, if you're a one type of snake owner or you have a enclosure like this. You can have a radiant heat panel. Radiant heat panel, pros of it is low cost for energy. So it's not as on as often as heat tape, and it just draws a less of a voltage. Also a pro is if a snake goes up there and touches it, it's not going to burn them because it's heating the area around it. It's not heating the element itself. Heat tape, you can touch it and you can feel it getting hot. Same thing with hot heating wire and a heat pad. They're all essentially the same way as what they heat. They heat themselves up, therefore heating up your enclosure. So with heating tape, I could have put heat tape across the top here. It would just be an eyesore. For me, it would work perfectly fine. I probably wouldn't have put it just directly showing on here. I'd put it in the back. I would just have to figure if this plastic could handle the heat tape. So therefore, I went with the radiant heat panel. Vivarium sells some. The cons about it is, one, they're not readily available, just like heat tape and heat wire. And the cost, it's about $100 for an 80-watt unit plus shipping. And you're gonna have to figure out a way to mount it. Most people just drill into the enclosure, but if you're not someone who likes to drill in, then you're just gonna have to see what works for you. Because I don't know if command strips would work, and I would know if I would trust any kind of adhesive to that, just because of how it heats up. So you'd have to drill into your enclosure. So how do I control these heating elements? They do need to be controlled because they will constantly be on and spike up to about 140 degrees. I believe that's what the heat tape get up to. So you're gonna have to get a thermostat. You can get these BN Link ones or Inkbird one. I go with BN Link. I've had good success with BN Link. I haven't had any just die on me. For the Inkbirds, I did have two, but I don't know if it was just a wiring issue of my house that blew it up or my oil radiator. I don't know, but I know they have great reviews. I've had many thermostats, and I have a thermostat for every heating source in this room. You're gonna need one for every source of heat. So how do I keep the cool side at 82? You're gonna need an oil radiator, an oil heater. You can buy those from Walmart. They're about 50, 60 bucks, maybe even 80. And again, you are gonna have to plug it into a heat source. You're gonna have a probe. I don't know if, you guys can't see, but you're gonna have to have the probe to stick in there. And you're gonna have to have your oil heater plugged into that. And then once it reaches its desired temperature, it'll cut itself off. Just like with the heat tape, just with the radiant heat panel, every heating source. Key thing is make sure that probe is stuck where it needs to be. Because if it falls off, your heat tape is going to keep going up and up and up. And I know I touched that on the previous video, but I want to reiterate that because I've seen many people who has had their snakes die, their houses burned, their whole snake room just gone because a probe fell out or a thermostat failed. So if you can, don't cheap out on your thermostat. Go for as expensive as you can. And just always check on your ball python. Do your daily checks on if everything is working correctly. I know a lot of people go through, you'll see a lot of breeders, they do go through things that happen that they checked every day, but things happen, but there's things you can do to mitigate that. So, yes. So try not to cheap out on your thermostat. That is what's controlling your heating. So, yeah. So, also, I know people ask if, hey, can I use my HVAC to heat up my room? I tell people no. Unless you're gonna have your house at 80 degrees, 82 degrees, no. Because also with heat, like let's say Kansas right now is at like 48 degrees, 40 degrees, it is cold. So my heating is struggling right now in this room. I might need to upgrade to a bigger heater or add 2 in here. So I think my room right now is about 77. This one says 75 in here. So I just try to keep it as hot as I can in here with the temperatures that I'm dealing. I'm gonna have to seal this room a little better because I think there is a draft from coming from the windows. So I will have to address that by this weekend, or my energy bills will be crazy high. So oil heater, that's the way to go. HVAC, don't do it. And also with heating is gonna drop your humidity tremendously. Heating will drop your humidity tremendously. So how do I keep my humidity up during these trying times of coldness? Or just keeping your ball python at a specific humidity. You're gonna wanna keep it at 60 to 65%. That's what I try to keep my ball pythons, about 65%. You can use paper towels, that could be their substrate. The only issue with that, the pros of that is it's cheap, easy to clean. If it poops or pees on it, just take it out, put another one in there. Cons is that you can have humidity spikes, and you can have humidity drops, rapid humidity drops, humidity spikes. Because you're spraying it, it absorbs the water very quickly, and if you just don't double check that, you might have a humidity spike. And paper towels do tend to dry out quicker. Then my next option is Repti-Chip. Repti-Chip, I think, is the most ideal substrate for ball pythons and snakes in general. You can use Repti-Chip. Here, I'll bring the box out right here. This is Repti-Chip. So Repti-Chip is a coconut fiber that's gonna absorb the water. It's gonna absorb it, and it'll keep it at a constant humidity. What you're gonna do with that is fill it up with hot water in a big Sterilite tub, like a big tote. You're gonna fill it up with that, and just let it sit there, and then break it up. Issue with that is please let it rest for a day or two, so humidity drops quite a bit. Because if you just shove that into your ball python, brand new substrate, you will see an insane humidity. You will see like 90%, 99%. It's gonna be dripping. Don't want that. You do not want that, because that could lead to scale rot and RI issues, respiratory infection issues with these ball pythons. So try not to have way too high humidity. I would not go above 80% or anywhere near that. You can, and then if you go too low, you can have a ball python with stuck shed. So you're either gonna have stuck shed, and too high you will have snake or scale rot or RI issues, respiratory infection issues. So how do I know my humidity is correct? Check your ball python, buy a hygrometer, buy one of these little things. I think I got this pack of 3 for like $12 on Amazon. Just buy them, stick it in your enclosure, just like I have one here. So 70% humidity. Green streak pythons need a whole different array of humidity, but that's actually holding up pretty well. I do have eco fiber, but that's a video for later. So Repti-Chip, you're gonna try to keep it at 60, 65. Just keep double checking your humidities. And you will know if it's not the right humidity. If it's too low, they will get flaking shed. They will get stuck shed. So you will have to kind of pull, you'll see it like flaking off instead of just coming out as one piece. If that happens to you, you could put them in a little tub, kind of like these ones, fill it up with some water. I put a microfiber cloth in there, and then as it sits in there for like 30 minutes, I kind of use the microfiber cloth and let it slither through it, and that will pull off a lot of your stuck shed. But if you constantly have stuck shed, just double check your humidity, make sure your humidity is correct. And if your humidity is right and you still have stuck shed, I would up your humidity just a little bit and keep doing it until it's going to be a lot of trial and error, especially just starting out. People ask me, how do you know how to do this? How do you know? I was like, I just tried it. Just keep trying and ask, keep asking. With people that you're doing with this, the breeders you bought this from, hit me up, bug me, ask me questions. I will do the best of my ability to answer you as quickly as possible. And there are tons of research videos, tons of I think Mutations Creations has a great form or information on all that kind of stuff, and that's what I used when I started doing this, is Mutation Creations. So yeah, so so Alex, what do? Do I just pour water in there? How do I adjust the humidity? I use this EvoSun pump sprayer. It's a 4-liter pump, and you just pump it and it releases air right here, and it pressurizes it, and you just have this little handle and you just spray it. You could also have the handheld ones, and you can find all these at your local Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, even Amazon. They all have these, and I think that one was about $30. The handheld ones are like $10. So again, just do what's efficient to you. So, all right, so you got your humidity right, you got your temperatures right, you got your enclosures. And what kind of enclosure should I do? If you want a PVC one like this, well, it's not PVC, it's like a plastic one. For your ball python, it would be kind of like this, but sideways, so laying down, and probably a lot shorter and longer. Or you could use these tubs. I would just say use a locking lid one. So, because ball pythons are escape artists. How do I know? I found out the hard way. They hide themselves in this room, and I have to tear this room up and be really upset once I find him, and he was in a spot that I never thought of, and then now I have to clean up this whole mess I just made scavenging from. So, all right, cool. So you got your enclosure, temperature is right, you got your thermostat, you got your humidity right with your correct mister. And yes, they do need a water bowl. I give them a water bowl. It helps with humidity. Put it on the cool side, because again, if it's on your humidity side, on your hot side, it'll increase the humidity because it's starting to evaporate the water quicker. So that could also help you out if you do have too low of humidity. So, all right, now we're gonna get on to the feeding portion of this. So now for feeding, you're gonna have the mice or rats. For all intents and purposes, we'll stick with rats, but mice are about the same thing. They are just used for smaller ball pythons. Now, once you switch from mice to rats, always ask your breeder or wherever you buy this, what do they normally eat? Because that's what they're gonna wanna stick to. Ball pythons don't like change. They don't like lights. They don't like a lot of things. They like to be in a small enough enclosure. Also, I need to touch on that. Yes, you can get too big of an enclosure for a ball python. If I had an enclosure like this for a ball python, with the amount of stuff I had in here, they would not like that. Because they like to hide. They need hides. They need darkness. They need to be hidden. They don't like a big area if they don't feel confined. They like to be in their hide, and they like press up against it, and they like that. They love that. So be careful getting too big. I'm not telling you to put a full-size ball python in a tub about this big. I'm not telling you to do that, but that'll lead into my tips and tricks that I wish I knew before getting into ball pythons. And these are stuff that I've been told and kind of I've tested myself. So again, ask what they want to eat or what they have been eating. If they've been eating mice, then you know, buy mice. But eventually they're gonna get too big for mice. So what do I do now? I'm switching to rats. Will a ball python eat right away? The rat? Yes. Maybe. Most likely yes, but they cannot. They just don't like change. And let's say they do eat, we'll go with they did eat. So they eat rats. You're gonna keep jumping them up all the way up, and they can eat all the way up to a medium rat. You're gonna want to feed the rat the size of them. So about the width of them, you're gonna feed them that size of a rat. Some people do about their size and half. That's up to you. I try not to go that big just because I feed live rats, and I don't like to be scared that my rat is gonna kill my snake or even hurt my snake. So let's say they've been feeding them rats. Now I say, okay, are they frozen thawed or live? If they're frozen thawed, then you're gonna have to get frozen thawed. They sell those you can get from ProRodents.com, I believe, and those are gonna be your most cost-effective, easiest thing to do. The con with that is you're gonna have to explain to someone why you have a box of rats in your freezer, and then you're gonna have to pick one out, put it in hot water so it gets to the right temperature, and dance it around for the snake. Then the snake can eat it, And if he eats it, oh, sweet, cool, you were good. If it doesn't eat it, now you gotta throw this rat away because you cannot refreeze it, just like you can't refreeze a steak. As much as we want to, it's not gonna be good. It's not good. Do not refreeze that rat because you got it up to the temperature it needed to be, and then now you're gonna refreeze it. Just don't do that. You can do pre-killed, which I think is like the mediation in between. Pre-killed is gonna be the right temperature. That's the pros of it. It's gonna be the right temperature, and you don't have to worry about your snake getting bit. Cons is that you're gonna have to buy a live rat, or you have to find someone with a bunch of pre-killed rats. You have to feed them in time before they start, I guess, going through the nasties of death. So keep that in mind. If you are looking for pre-kill, that's gonna be harder to find. It's gonna be harder to find. Now to live feeding, which is what I do. Pros of that: the rat makes itself look tasty. If your snake wants to eat it, it's gonna eat it. Rats are gonna do all the work for you. Just open the lid, throw it in there, close it. Good to go. Cons is that you have to find a rat breeder, a live rat breeder, locally that's gonna keep up with your supplies. Because if not, you're gonna be asking on Facebook, hey, do you have rats? Do you have rats? Or you can go to Petco and ask for a pet rat, but they are crazy expensive because it's a pet rat. So I breed my own rats. If you want to get in a breeding rat video, I will do that in the future. But for right now, you're going to have to find a rat breeder because I doubt you have a rat setup already ready to go if you're just thinking about getting in a ball python. Maybe you do, good on you, but I did not. So I went to Exotic Pets, which is here in Kansas, and I think now I'm paying like $4 a rat. So I was like, no way. So now I breed my own rats. Cons with live breeding, the other con of live breeding, or feeding, is they can bite your snakes. They can kill your snakes. They can bite you. They can get out. So keep that in mind. Watch when your snake eats. Make sure it's not getting bit as the snake is squeezing or hugging the rat. Make sure that doesn't happen. You have to know how to feed if you're doing live feeding. I know people have very strong opinions on whether to live feed or frozen thawed feed. You're gonna get that, and hey, I'm not here to tell you what to do. Do whatever works for you specifically. I just know a lot of people that do live feeding, and I know a lot of people that do frozen thawed. Frozen thawed is definitely the safer option. The safer, more cost-effective option for most people. So if you can, it's just gonna take more work. But for me, I was always sold live fed rat snakes. So that's what I do, live rats. And I've just been sticking to that. Maybe I will go to frozen thawed in the future. Just leave your comments below. What are your guys' experiences with that? And again, if you won't have a snake and I say, hey, I sold you this rat or the snake and I want to feed them frozen thawed, can I do it? I would tell you yes. You're just gonna have to work for it. You're gonna have to work for it. It's gonna take some adjusting for the snake. Again, they do not like change. It's gonna take some adjusting, but they should eat it eventually. Let's say, okay, Alex, I bought a snake from you, feeding it live rats. Okay, and it's okay, and it has not eaten, which I have gone I think once or twice. And I tell them, okay, let me see your enclosure setup. They send me a picture. I'm like, okay, well, you have a heat lamp. I would stop that. Okay, they did that, started eating. I had another person, they did feed frozen or live. I told them, well, my snake eats live. And they've been trying to do live. I was like, okay, well, what's your temperatures? And like, well, I just have a heating pad. I was like, well, you need a thermostat. You need a thermostat. So he changed that. Most people I know, I think they stick to what I feed them. But what I would tell people, because I've had snakes that I feed them live and they still don't eat, like this girl right here, they just stop eating. They can just stop eating. As long as they don't drop 20%. So let's say I have a snake and I sold it to you for and it had 1,000 grams. You text me 3 months later, hey Alex, still not eating. Okay, let's say a month, because by 3 months time, I think that's a long time. But a month, let's say it's a month. Let's say how much weight has it dropped? You're like, not anything. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Well, we'll just try these things out. All right. I would ask you, okay, you doing live, frozen thawed, ask you the normal questions. Now, if it has dropped more than 20%, if I ask you within a month and it's dropped down to 600, I'd be like, whoa, we gotta figure this out ASAP because that's a lot of weight for your snake to lose so quickly. Something is being done massively wrong, okay? So just weigh your snakes. I'd say like once every 2 weeks. I do weekly just because this is what I like to do. I like to keep track of it, making sure, because I feed them every week, so I want to weigh them once a week. So let's say your temperatures are golden, your humidity is golden, your shedding is golden, your water bowl, your setup is golden too. Everything, I'm like, dang, he tried frozen thawed, he tried live, he's done this. Now I would say, okay, how about we try African softwood? So this is like crack to ball pythons. It is a mix between a rat and a mice. I believe they're just a different type of rat. The biggest size they get is a medium rat, which is about the biggest a ball python can eat, and they get as small as a mice. So it's awesome. They are like crack. The problem was if you feed an ASF to a snake, they tend not to eat regular rats after, because they're like, well, why would I go for McDonald's when I can go to this fancy 5-star burger joint? Even though ASFs, that's all the pros of ASF. The cons are they are hard to find. They tend to be a lot more expensive than regular rats. They are hard to find, and they tend to be more expensive, and they are more jumpy. They act more like mice than rats do. So that's gonna be your pros and cons of them. But if your snake can't eat, I tell them try an ASF at worst. I've had snakes that don't eat, and that's all they eat. I have a few snakes like that, and I try to save my ASFs for them. I have like 4 snakes that don't do that only eat ASFs. And I try to accommodate my snakes, make them feel as comfortable as I can. So I'm like, here you go, here's your 5-star steak. And then the next snake, I'm like, here's your regular rat. Whatever works for you, whatever works for them, hey, as long as it works, it works. Let's say okay, Alex, I tried an ASF. They still doesn't eat it, which I've had happen. I'm like, okay, this is not dropping weight like crazy. Just leave it alone. Don't look at your snake. Don't bother the snake. Don't talk around the snake. Don't think about the snake. Keep the lights off. And just ignore the snake for 2 weeks. Then go back and let's try to feed it again. If it doesn't do that, wait another 2 weeks. Try to feed it again. That's what I tell people. And sometimes snakes just go out feeding for whatever reason. Just let nature be nature. They will come back to eating. I've had a snake go off for 9 months. I've heard longer. It's just let nature do nature. Sometimes they are in their breeding cycle. Who knows? Just your best bet is just to, hey, you do you, okay? And I will just do your best not to stress, and just shoot me a question, leave a comment, and I promise I will put your mind at ease. And just talk to whoever sold you the snake. Maybe they can take it back into their home, and if it eats for them, then it could be just something, an enclosure issue, or who knows. It just could be noise, who knows. You're just going to talk to your breeder specifically, and hopefully that's me. But, alright, cool. So, that's the tips and tricks that I wish I knew about ball python breeding. Is keep the lights off, use heat tape for either an enclosure, one enclosure, have a locking lid tub, use Repti chip, try ASFs if they don't eat, and just leave them once every 2 weeks. And then at worst comes to worst, you can try assist feeding or force feeding. I would not try that on my own. I would have an experienced person do that, because you can hurt / or kill the snake. So be very careful with assist or force feeding. Assist feeding, yes, you can try that yourself. Sometimes snakes just need a reminder that, hey, look at this thing's in my mouth, let me just twist it and then start eating it. Sometimes just how they are. They're not the brightest creatures in the world, but hey, neither are we, right? So just go out there and just try it. You're gonna figure out a lot of these things through trial and error, and that's how people. I got asked recently from the dude I bought my green tree python from. He's like, "How'd you know how to breed?" I was like, "I just looked up information online, looked up how to incubate, made my own incubator, and I just went for it." You just have to try. It's gonna be a lot of trial and error. You're gonna make mistakes. There's always gonna be an easier way to do it, but eventually you will get so confident. And you will be able to figure things out where you yourself can start giving this advice to other people, and then you can share what works for you specifically. And that's what I want to hear. What works for you guys? And maybe you guys can give me information that I have yet to hear. I'm always here to learn and give advice to other people. I am by no means the most experienced ball python breeder, and I don't claim to know everything, but I'm here to share, like I said, here to share my journey, share my experiences, share basically what works specifically for me. So if you're a pet owner, now you know what you have to get into, what you need for it. If you're gonna, I can kind of give you a price on stuff. If you're gonna do your own 2x2x2 enclosure or 2x4x2 enclosure, it's gonna run you about $200 to $300 for the enclosure. Then you're gonna need your, let's say you go with the radiant heat, another $100. So let's do $400. Substrate, $30, and all the rest of the hide. Let's add another $100. So I think in total, if you wanted to go with like a setup like this, make it look very pretty, you get up to like $600. Now, if you were somebody who's like, well, I think I just want to keep them in a tub for now and stuff like that, you can use a tub like that, and that will drop your costs way down. Just make sure that you, even if you just use a plastic enclosure like that, try to keep them as happy as you can. Put hiding holes in there. Do everything you can to make sure that the snake is happy, because if the snake is happy, you'll be a lot happier and you'll be a lot less stressed. That's my mindset going through this. And with the rack system and these ball python systems, because I am a breeder and I have rack systems, I can't have a 4x2x2 enclosure for each ball python. My whole room would be completely filled up and my electric bill would be out of this world. But for green tree pythons, that's just what they need. So that's why I do have this one, and I think it is pretty to look at. It's been something I've been wanting for the longest time. And I will share my journey with this because I plan to get more green tree ball python or green tree pythons. And I do plan to get more ball pythons. So subscribe to, give me hit the subscribe button, give me a like, help motivate me through this journey. And again, I'll be back in another video. And I feel like the next video will be going over more of morphs and how I can know if these two morphs will go together. I can answer those questions, or if you guys have a question in comments, just leave them down below, and I will do my best to answer each one of you guys and make a video about it. If you have a question that I feel like deserves a video, then hey, I'll leave a video for you and we'll figure something out. Check out my TikTok, hit up my Instagram, my Facebook. I think that's all I really got. Oh, my morph market too. Remember, Supreme Snakes. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.